Hello, hello. How is it going, everyone? If you can hear me loud and clear, type loud and clear in the chat box. Right, the audio is working on my end. Right, good evening, everyone. This is Eunice Tan, an entrepreneur speaker, and this is coming to you live from Singapore. So let us know where you are watching this from. Are you watching from overseas, outside Singapore, or are you watching within Singapore? Are you still working at work, or are you still working from home? Let us know. What do you have for dinner? Let us know, right? So we can just get a little bit chit chat and engagement with each other. I would really want to know who's watching as well, get to know you better as well. Right. My name is Eunice Tan. I'm an entrepreneur and speaker, and I've been running my own business consultancy for the last 10 years. And during these 10 years, I have helped people to start their business and grow their businesses. But amongst all, I realized that one of the very key skills that they lack of is actually people skills. And but through my experience of handling people, I launched the YouTube channel called Daily People Skills this year to help and to share my experience and some quick tips on how you can deal with people at your workplace or in your life in general, right? So if you have a questions that you have, a recurring or burning question about how to deal with a particular kind of person or kind of a situation, let us know. You can type in the comments box anytime. We'll answer as many as possible. And if you're too shy, you can PM us as well, right? So I like to start my class on time, and so just let me just do a little bit of an intro about what do I mean by people skills. Now, a lot of people think that people skills is about EQ, communication skills, and leadership skills, right? All these are good, and all these are included, right? But I think to me, people skills go much, much beyond that. And it's at the bottom line, it's about who you really, really are. Because before you can manage your others, you must first manage yourself, right? So that's why I have created all these learning lessons to share with you on how you can improve yourself, and which in turn it will overflow and influence the people around you effortlessly. Yeah, the keyword is really effortlessly, and you don't have to stress about it at all. Right, so let's begin on today's lesson, and let me share my screen. Okay, and today we are going to talk about how to connect with others using my Ha.Ha method. Yes, how many of you think that it's going to be a fun session? I like to make my session as fun and enjoyable as possible, as and package as much value as possible within a short period of time as well, right? And as you can see, right, and I believe many of you are watching this is because you do realize how important it is to connect with others. I have other videos on various ways of connecting with others. One of them is on, connecting with others within 3 minutes. So when you have a very short time to connect with someone, you can use the tips that we share in that video. And this video is about connecting people in you have a little bit of luxury of time that you don't have to shop. 3 minutes you have to connect with somebody. More on a day-to-day when you meet with your colleagues and with someone that you see on a very daily basis, that you want to build a relationship and you want to connect with them, right? It can be your clients, can be your vendors even, yeah, right? So very often we would like to connect with more other people, whether at work or in your personal life, but we don't know how. And sometimes we are just so overwhelmed by all the suggestions given to us, all good intentions. But sometimes we just want something simple and easy to apply, and something we can use in a very natural way and not so stressful and not so awkward. So as you might have guessed from this title, that I'm going to share with you the 4 things that I do regularly to connect with others. And Ha.Ha is actually the abbreviation of these 4 things that I do, and to help you to remember what are these 4 things. So let's get started for today. Right. First up, H. Of course, it's going to be humor. How can we have Ha.Ha method without humor, right? Okay, before you guys start saying things like I'm not funny and switching me off, right? Let me start off with what humor is not about. Yes, it is not about being a clown. Nothing wrong with being a clown. I know of people who are professional clowns and they are very, very good with it and are making very good money with it as well. And I think they are doing a great job bringing joy and laughter to many people. It is also not about making a fool of yourself, right? Or making others to laugh at you. Rather, it is about having others to laugh with you. It is also about lifting someone up and encourage someone when he or she is feeling down. It is also about bringing joy to yourself and others. I mean, after all, many people are finding life getting very stressful these days. So why make your day even more miserable than it already is? That's why you will find that videos that contain humor will tend to go viral very quickly these days. Because most people would like to spread a bit of laughter if they can. Would you not? So most people will agree that having a sense of humor is so important and can bring really practical benefits, whether at work or in your personal life. The question most people are asking is not whether should they develop a sense of humor, but how to develop a sense of humor, if that's even possible in the first place. Now, many people think of humor in a very narrow way and associate humor with comedians only, and they form the conclusion that there is only one such type of humor. That's why whenever I mention humor, most people's response is, I'm not funny. But there are different types of humor. And let me just share with you very quickly 3 different types of humor that surround us every day. Okay? First up, physical. The first type falls under a category I call physical. So people use their facial expressions or body language to illustrate a point, which can be quite funny. One common example would be slapping on the forehead, right? You know, the second type falls under the category called witty or wordplay or dry humor. Or you can say it's verbal humor. So earlier on, just now, the first point was about physical humor, and the second point is about verbal humor. It's about spoken words. It's about playing with words. Sometimes the pun intended, sometimes the pun not intended. Now, example of a pun intended, right? For example, a horse is a very stable animal. Horse, stable, get it? Another example is why did the balloons run away from the concert? They were playing pop music. I know, it can be very lame sometimes, but don't worry, lame jokes are always in the trend. But then you might ask, what if no one finds it funny? So if you don't find those 2 jokes funny, it's intentional, okay? Because it leads to my next point, which is to laugh at your own jokes and actions. Okay, firstly, laugh at your own jokes or actions. It's different from laughing at yourself. It's laughing at what you did and not who you are. Okay? And how many of you realize that laughter can be contagious? Have you noticed that when someone tells a joke and start laughing himself first, and the rest will also start laughing? And for some people, right, they already start laughing even before they begin their jokes. And we also start laughing without even hearing the joke yet. I'm sure you have come across occasions like this. And we all do silly things every now and then, right? So whenever I do something silly or I make a mistake, I will start laughing at myself also. And then I will share with other people and make them laugh. So don't always take yourself so seriously. You don't always have to be prim and proper all the time. You don't have to be perfect all the time. In fact, when you share your mistakes or vulnerabilities, people will be drawn to you and feel connected to you because we feel connected to a human and not a mannequin. Get it? So how can we develop a sense of humor? Very, very simple. A 3-step process, I call it. Right? So first, you learn. Then you practice. And then you practice some more. Simple? I told you it's a very simple 3-step process. Yes, seriously, we can learn to be more humorous. I know I used to be a really serious person. I feel embarrassed talking about my mistakes. Everything must be perfect. I have no sense of humor at all. And so I began to learn. First, I read jokes to tell to tell a joke, so to tell a funny joke, I must first find it funny. Common sense, right? And then I learned how to deliver the joke. I don't get it right initially, and so I practice some more. And you know the amazing thing during this process, I became a funny person, or at least I think so. And from there, I was able to crack jokes on different occasions. So don't be discouraged. Keep practicing, and you will definitely get there and develop your own style of humor. Not maybe, but definitely, right? So, right, let's move on to the next point. The first A here is appreciate. Yes, everyone wants to be appreciated. No matter how old, how young, experienced or fresh graduates, men or women, or you are teachers, or you are students, and the list goes on. We all like to be appreciated, even if it's part of our job. One of the biggest complaints when something falls apart is when someone says, I felt like I was taken for granted. This is the most common way of saying, I don't feel appreciated. I believe we have all have been that place before, being taken for granted, being not appreciated. Is not a very nice feeling. And sometimes we are guilty of taking others for granted or not showing our appreciation as well. And on other occasions, there is a mismatch between showing our appreciation and the other's receiving end. So, for example, an employee said to the boss, "You don't appreciate me." And the boss replied, "Huh? I just gave you the best employee award for this year. I have also especially singled you out during the weekly meeting." And the employee said, "I don't care about these things. I wasn't feeling well yesterday, and you knew, but you didn't even say anything or ask me to go back and rest." It is so common. Some of us have only one way of showing our appreciation. So I want to highlight here the different ways of showing our appreciation. And let's start with the verbal first. This is definitely the most straightforward. For example, a word, an encouraging word, and a acknowledgement word like "good job," "well done," "thank you" are the common ones. The next common ways is which comes very close to be physical. So, for example, a nod on the head, a thumbs up, and a high five. And another common gesture would be a pat on the shoulder, literally, right? And sometimes even a hug. But just to take note that it may not be appropriate to such a physical touch in some cultures or in some circumstances. Then if it's not appropriate, then don't, right? There are also other ways to show your appreciation. Another way is to spend time with that person. This is such a biggie, right? This can be very precious, especially in this era where most people are always rushing from one place to another. Even with this pandemic, I hear people telling me they have more meetings than ever, precisely because everything is virtual now. So the time saved on traveling is slot another meeting in place of it. And we are always busy, sometimes like headless chickens. Sometimes I wonder what we are busy with. That's why when someone stops in their tracks and bother to spend time with me, I will truly feel appreciated. When I say spend time, it can be just blocking an hour of the time or even just 15 minutes and sit down and be present with that person and have a good conversation. Meaning you give full attention to that person whom you want to show appreciation to. No interruptions. It can be in a Starbucks or even just in the meeting room in the office. And very likely you will get to know the person better after a good, solid, uninterrupted conversation. Okay, let's move on to the next point, which is give. And you notice the inverted comma, right? By give, I don't necessarily just referring to presents per se, the kind that you receive during Christmas. And gifts can come in the form of thank you notes. In this case, it has to be a physical note, not a text, not an emoji, not a digital image, something tangible. It can also come in the form of a personalized mark or pen, just to give you some examples. The bottom line is that it doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to be a tangible item that the person can see or touch, right? And next, we have another way to show your appreciation is what I call little acts or activities. So it's just gestures that are, or you can call it gestures. And in this case, I'm referring to something that you do for that person. So for example, you bought the person his or her favorite coffee or breakfast. I remember there was one time I did a favor for a coworker. To me, it's really not a big deal. It's a by the way thing for me. But what she did the next day is that she bought this famous food, which famous food which she knows that is one of my favorite food. And the eatery is a little out of place. Actually, it's very out of place. And it's notorious for the queue. You have to queue for at least an hour. But you know how touched I was? I felt so appreciated by what she did. So you can never go wrong with little acts like buying food or making coffee. It can also in the form of returning the favor to the person when he or she meets a problem next time. Yes? Right. Let's move on to the second H, which is humble. Hey, while everyone likes to be appreciated, no one likes ob- obnoxiousness. Yes, I'm aware that I may be using a very strong word to some of you, but I'm just going to say it as it is. I don't know if you can ever teach someone to be humble, to be honest, but I think we can be mindful of a few things. So, for example, you can be a lifelong learner. Just always tell yourself, always have the attitude that there is always something new to learn every day. There is always something you can learn from anyone around you, regardless of age, experience, gender, or occupation, etc. And always have this attitude of this world is so big and there are many more things that I don't know. And in fact, the more I learn, the more I know, the more I don't know. I'm sure some of you have heard that before as well. Now, second thing to be mindful of is to have a gratitude heart. Now, I'm sure many of you would agree with me. Having a gratitude heart is so important. Now, if you can practice gratitude exercise every day, I believe many of you are doing that already. Now, be grateful not just for the big things, but also for the small things. In fact, the fact that you are breathing, you can see and hear, and all your five senses are working, I think that's something to be very grateful already. Um, to me, because of my accident, many years ago, I got knocked down by a bus and I got a second lease in life. To me, every day when I wake up breathing and I live to another day is a second chance in life. So for my gratitude, like daily gratitude is that I'm just so glad to be alive, right? Because I live to have another day as second chance. Number three is to acknowledge your own weaknesses. Now, this was a big one for me in the past. It was really hard for me to acknowledge my weaknesses in the past, even though I'm aware of them. It's one thing to know, it's another to acknowledge. But once I have the correct posture of acknowledging my weaknesses, then things begin to turn around at my work and in my life. So what is this correct posture? Now, the correct posture I'm referring to is to know that acknowledging your weaknesses doesn't mean putting myself down. So it's not a case of, oh, I'm weak in this, I am so lousy, I am so rubbish, and things like that. Okay, you can joke about it, but I'm talking about very seriously putting myself down. No, not that like that, okay, when you acknowledge your weaknesses. Acknowledging my weaknesses also doesn't make me a worse person than others. It only made me realize that I need others and it's okay to ask for help from others. So it's really opening up your vulnerabilities, and with that, right, the connection with others is really increased tremendously. Now, the next thing I want to share is to listen and digest. Yes, listen and digest what the other person is saying. We all make the mistake, myself included. of listening but not really digesting what the other person is saying. More often than not, we are listening and preparing. And in our minds, our rebuttal, our comeback. So we are on one hand, we appear right on the surface, we appear to be listening. Yes, that person is talking to me, telling me this, that. But we are not really digesting. In our mind, right, we are already preparing our rebuttals, our comeback, and say where you are wrong, where you are, where we have missed my point. This is not my intention, and all this. But seriously, once I start to listen and take in what the other person is saying, I begin to see a different perspective on whatever subject that we are talking about. So I may not agree 100% with the other person, but I begin to see where are my blind spots, where I miss it. And once I begin to see my blind spots, I can do something about it. My works went up to another level of excellence. In the other video, I talk about making changes, and being aware, right, is actually the first step to making changes. Making change is really, really simple. It's as simple as ABC, right? And ABC is basically awareness before change. So by listening and digesting what the other party is saying, I begin to see my blind spot and I begin to be able to make changes to what I do. And my work become more holistic. I begin to able to address things from different perspectives, different angles, and different issues, and many people and realize that hey, this I really know my stuff, and they begin to build trust on me and confidence that I can deliver what I say I can do, right? But at the same time, right, it really reinforces by listening and digesting what people are saying. It reinforces the attitude of I don't know everything. But more often than not, when I listen to them, and I realize, hey, you know what? I never thought about that. And wow, this how come I didn't see it from that angle? Whoa, I didn't know someone can trigger someone's reactions like this way. And I could have chosen a better word. I could have chosen a different word which convey the same meaning, or maybe even convey in a better way. But I didn't. I didn't. So I know next time I can choose. I will be more mindful of the choice of words that I use. And when you are aware that you don't know everything, that's where humility will start to begin. And lastly, I want to talk about this thing called fake humility. Yes, there is such a thing called fake humility. That person who on the surface say that it's all teamwork, but you can tell from the tone and the body language that he or she is saying, it's actually me. I me alone, Hello, bring it on. I want some compliments. And look at me, right? Even though the words that they use is, oh, it's everybody, right? Now, the dangerous thing about this person is that sometimes he may not even be aware of what he's doing. He may not realize that he is acting out fake humility because really consciously, right? He's just thinking what he says matters, so he was just saying the things, not realizing that what is within actually is expressed out in either word or non-verbal body language as well. Now, I call out these characteristics here because I want all those who are listening to be aware of the presence of these characteristics so that we can be conscious that we are not doing this. I always believe that what to do is just as important as what to do. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I always believe what not to do is just as important as what to do. Right? Don't you agree? Right. Not last but not least, the second A. What do you think it is? It is approach. Yes. Many years ago, I learned this particular principle from a mentor, and I use it up to this day. This principle is called different folks, different strokes. It is so simple, yet it's so powerful. Very often, it's the simplest thing that is the most powerful. It's so common sense, isn't it? You need to use different approaches when it comes to connecting with people because we are all unique. But it doesn't mean that there are billions of people in this world and you have to come up with billion ways of approach. But you just need to be mindful and aware that there is no one size fits all, but to tweak accordingly once you understand the principle of things. So you will realize in many of my videos, I will share the underlying principle and give examples and case studies as far as possible to illustrate my point. But what you can do is take the principle and run with it and personalize it to your own style. Right? I really love this method because this principle of different folks, different strokes, because it really has helped me. And even up to today, and I've been practicing it for using it for the last 10 years, and it becomes an internalized principle where I use it every day. And every time I want to do something that, I don't seem to get the results, hey, I've been using this method, I do, and I've been using this method, and it seems, and suddenly it doesn't work on this person. And I'll remind myself, hey, it's time to use a different approach. Time to use different folks and different strokes. And begin to calm down and then start from over from the beginning again and begin to see what is going on and begin to look at the different areas that we can look at in terms of what approach can I use. Now we talk about different approaches, right? And so what is it that we need to look at? And since I mentioned, right, we don't need to come up with a billion ways of different approaches, right? But there are 5 areas that I take into consideration to decide what kind of approach to use and adapt. Now, first, let me see. Hang on a minute. Right. The first area that I take note of is actually different behavior. And in this case, I use the DISC method as a guideline. Now, some call DISC as a personality test. Right. So those who know what is DISC, we have taken it before. Type DISC in the comment box, or if you know your DISC, type your profile in the comment box as well. Now, for those who have done it before, or those specialized in training in DISC, would prefer to see this as more of a behavioral test, because I've done this so many times and realized that sometimes you can behave a little bit differently at work and at home, because sometimes your environment, your job at work requires you to tap into a different kind of behavior and personality that enables you to do the job. Right? And at home, you tend to be your own self, or you want to just switch off and you just go into a different kind of mode. So when I do this personality test, in the recent years, the trainer will actually tend to ask me to think of an area, will ask the students, think of an area that you want to check in, right? You want to test this on. So some people choose at work, some people choose at home. Now, what is for those who are not familiar, let me briefly explain what is DISC. Now, DISC for D is actually a quadrant. So if you can Google, not now, later, right? So D stands for dominance. We usually use the description dominance. So they are the fast-paced people, and they are very task-oriented, and so and they are straight to the point, and you don't tell them too many things, too long-winded. So when I approach this kind of people, when I want to connect this kind of people, I will tend to go straight to the point and focus on the end result. I will focus on the overview, the main pillars, I call it, like if you want to start a business or you want to do a marketing or whatever it is that you want to do, these are the 3 main things that you need to do first. And then I'll fill in the blanks and the meat later on as we move along, right? And I will also focus on the end result, because more often than not, what they want is that it doesn't matter what you do for them, right? For this group of people, it doesn't matter the method or the process, so long as legal, ethical, and moral, so long it gets the end result that I want. The priority is always the end result. Now for I usually will use the word influence to describe this group of people. Now this group of people seem like they are fast-paced, but they are people-oriented. Now, similar to D, I will go straight to the point, but I will focus on people for this group of people. In this case, these are the people where they are the party animals, they are limelight, they are the star of the party, they are the high energy people, and you will always notice them in the crowd, right? They will tend to dress very, very nice and very unique, usually very stylish, very fashionable. right? And they're just amazing. They like to make friends. They make friends very quickly and easily. And some call them the social butterfly. And life is never boring with them around, right? So when I approach these kind of people, I will tend to go straight to the point as well, because otherwise they will get bored very easily. Okay, but this time around, I will focus on people in because that's their priority, that's their interest, right? Now for S is we tend to use the description steady to describe this group of people. Now they are also people oriented, but they are slow paced people. Now slow paced just it doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's just that they are not as fast paced. You know, they talk slower. They need more time to digest that all. Now for this group of people, I will slow down my speech and will most likely check in with them more than the D's and the I's. Right. So if you know me for a while and you have been following our channels, you will know that I can speak very very fast, and I tend to do that as well. So I have to be very conscious. And my friends sometimes told me, can you stop being a bullet train? So I have to be very conscious and slow down my speech. So what do I mean by I will check in with them a bit more often than the D's and I's? Meaning that I will every now and then I will stop and will ask them more frequently things and questions like, do you have any questions? How do you feel about what I just asked? Because they tend to be a bit on the shy side, and they will not interrupt you. They are very nice people, and they tend to unless you ask, they will not ask, they will not initiate the asking first, right? Now, C is for what we call the compliance people. They are slow paced, but they're task oriented. So similar to D in terms of task oriented, and similar to the S in terms of the pace. They tend to do things step by step. So for this group of people, I will also slow my speech and will go more in depth in terms of steps and processes, right? Because they are more focused on unlike the D, right? The D is like just big picture, tell me the main thing, tell me the end result. Now the C's are very focused, they are very into what's next, what's the processes, what are the details and all, right? So when deal with the C's, I will go into the steps and the processes. Now you can Google and find out more about the DSSA. It's not set in stone, but it's or to stick someone in a hole. No, 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 100% no, 200% no. But it serves as a guideline, as a very quick, how I can gauge people. Now, this is only some of the guidelines. Sometimes it's not really, you can't really tell, right? So sometimes I will use other approaches. So and other areas such as I will also take note of how people learn, right? I'm a trainer, so I'm very mindful of this. But you don't have to be a professional trainer to be mindful of this area. We are all teaching someone every day. So it's good to be aware of how the other party, how the student is receiving information, right? So generally, once we enter adulthood, there are three major ways that we learn. Now we call this the V.A.K. V stands for visual, right? Some people learn by looking, right? Or watching you. You can't just tell them you. That's why you have to visual. They need to see some visual aids. They need to see, right, and watch what's going on. Now, A stands for audio, right? So these people, right, they don't necessarily have to see. They can listen to podcasts and they can remember things or take down notes, right? Unlike the visual. The visual is that's why I prepare slides of partly to help me along, and partly because I'm a bit of a visual person, it always helps me to focus, right? So the visual, right? If you don't have slides or anything, they tend to it's a little bit challenging for them to learn and focus. Now the audio is that you need to be very clear and in whatever that you are teaching, so they can learn by just by listening. Very good. I admire these kind of people, right? Full respect for them. Now K is for kinesthetic people, which is my primary learning method as well. Right? Kinesthetic people go by doing, the actual doing, and sometimes they go by gut feel as well. So very simple, right? If you go to IKEA and you buy, I know IKEA is a DIY furniture shop, right? So you have to DIY all your things. So you can tell the person's learning method, which kind is their learning method by just taking them to bringing them to IKEA furniture, ask them to assemble a DIY furniture. right? So kinesthetic people like me, right? We won't even read the instruction. We don't do anything. We just start doing. And then at the end of the day, we will realize, hey, you know what? That is one extra screw. Where does it go, right? So we learn by doing. So if you ask us to sit down there and listen and watch, and sometimes we tend to go lose our attention very quickly. But if you ask us to do, we learn very quickly, right? And so the visual people will read the instructions and follow it, right? And so the audio first people, they will go online and listen to sound instructions of how to assemble the bookshelf, the furniture, right? So you'll be surprised how useful this just by aware of how people learn, right? You will be pleasantly surprised how useful it is to even connect with people like that, because people will be very appreciative of, hey, you know what, you're a very good teacher, and they feel very comfortable with you, they can connect with you, and they feel that they can ask you questions. They are not afraid of you, there are some people who instill fear and I don't dare to ask you questions. It might seem that I will have it's a stupid question. But no, but once you are able to teach them according to the way they learn, you will find that people you are deemed to seem to be more approachable, and they will be able to come, have the guts to come and ask you questions. And that's where the connection starts to build and start to go deeper, right? So next, third area is different priorities, right? Now, everybody has different priorities at different timing, at different stages of their lives. So, for example, for someone who has just graduated, they're probably climbing the corporate ladder, getting making performance at work is their priority, right? Making money and pay off the student loan, finally get some result achievements and get rid of that student status, right? To show something, the significance is there, right? Compared to someone who maybe who like myself in the 40s, to me maybe family time is more important. Now at my stage, I used to focus a lot on my work. I'm a workaholic. I still am, but I learned to allocate time for my loved ones, those my friends. And in fact, last Friday I just went to take like a soap making class because my friend said so, right? So just to the whole group has gone and I'm the last one. Okay, fine, I'm going to as well, so that we can have a group session at some point, right? So everybody has different priorities at different stage of their life. So if you had tell me to go and do soap making 20 years ago, I think there will never I would never do that. And so why is this important? So when you approach someone, when you want to connect with someone, you must know what are their priorities at the moment, and or in the near future and the end and the long term future as well. So then you are able to connect with them and know what they are concerned with. Otherwise, if you are going to talk to someone who is focused on family time, and you talk to them about promotions and traveling and all, they won't be interested. Just like someone whose priority is having my own freedom, and someone who want a guidance, someone who wants to be, they don't want to be micromanaged, compared to someone who wants great autonomy and freedom. It's very different kind of connecting. So someone who wants freedom, right, you cannot give down their neck and tell them exactly, the teeny weeny things that you want them to do, right? So this is you need to be mindful of when it comes to connecting with people, right? The fourth area I want to talk about is actually in terms of different strengths. Now, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. And some of us are very good at the front end. For example, we are good at dealing with people, marketing, and some people are more interested in dealing with the back end, like admin or operations. Some people are very good at talking, others are very good at planning. So we all have different focus due to our weak strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, I'm interested in business strategy, marketing, and people, but I will lose interest when it comes to IT or machines. So when people want to connect with me, right, they have to talk. They have to tone down their talking about the software and all. I will be like, oh my god, I cannot. My goodness, I've already lost track by the time you come to step 4, right? But I will. But if you tell me to, this will benefit you. This will help me to connect with people better. It will help me to market my business better, or provide a better service to my clients. then it's a different case. And that's when I find that, hey, you know what, you are a very defensive person. I can connect with you. I feel connected because you understand my problem. My problem is not about the software. My problem is how do I add more value to my clients, right? So this is talking about you must understand other people's strengths and weaknesses as well, right? In order to approach them, connect with them in a more efficient and effective way. Now, the last area I want to talk about is different hardiness. Again, you will notice the inverted commas in terms of the word hardiness. Now, so I want to talk about this because this is one mistake that I make in the past. Like I'm quite a direct person, and when I talk, I can be quite direct. And sometimes I am not exactly the most ladylike. That's why my friends ask me to go and do some soap making classes to be more ladylike, right? Right. So, and I used to just just be direct, and I'll be very rough. And when talk to people, I will slap the back and the back of the shoulders and back, and when something so funny and all, right? But some people can handle it, but some people cannot, right? Some people you need to go a bit gentle with them. Right, this is something one of my mentors has kindly pointed out to me, because when I am so direct and when I'm so rough with them, I scare them, right? And I'm like, what did I do? And because I remember this girl, and she just she's just so scared of me. Whenever they see me, she sees me, and she does not want to approach me, does not want to ask me questions, just like just see me like a plague. But and then I realized from somebody else is that because she's a very gentle person. Remember DISC? She's an S. So my style of communication scares her. So that's where I learned to slow down. Combined with DISC, I will slow down. I will be more gentle. I will speak. I will go into a bit more details, and I will not talk so loud. Okay, so there's different kind of hardiness in everybody. So sometimes there are people who are very direct, and you can tell them straight that hey, this slides, this presentation cannot make it, right? But there are some people, when you tell them, it hurts their feelings, and they shut down after that, right? So just be mindful of that. Yes. Okay. Right. Right, that's all I have for today. And I trust that you have learned at least one thing today. And if you have learned something and one takeaway, you can just put in the chat box and let us know what is the one takeaway. Again, if you have a problem or a question that you want to ask that is recurring or burning question, let us know in the chat box as well, or you can PM us if you are shy. Now, I truly believe I have people skills is the number one skills that will not be taken over by technology and artificial intelligence. I know many of you are concerned that your jobs will be taken over by technology and AI, right? So you need to master your people skills, because once you have people skills, you'll be sure that moving forward in the future, there will be the jobs that are not replaced by technology and AI require people skills. And at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We are all social animals. We are created to connect with each other. This pandemic has proven more than ever, even with the best technology, we're told to stay at home, we were told to work from home. And even with the best technology, right, we still crave for the dining in. We still crave for a sit-down dinner with our family, with our loved ones, with our friends. So that goes to show that technology can never replace that human touch, right? So I just want to so connect with us, stay connected with us. We have our Facebook and our YouTube. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe. Right? That's all I have for today. I see you next round. Bye. See you soon.